Hey boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. We're just going to mess around here with some navigation basics. And at this point I realize, sorry I'm doing this voiceover afterwards because I forgot to do this when I started. But anyways, I noticed that I couldn't hear anything. The aircraft was just way too damn loud. So let's just turn it down a bit. I just heard a sneeze. Nobody sneezes in my airplane. What the heck? So let's change the audio around. And away we go. Back and forth, set it up, set it up, set it up. Set it up. Yay, we got it.
All right. That sounds fascinating.
Right. First of all, set the PFD as the primary flight display on HDD1. Remember how that was done?
Sure. I have to click PFD from the main menu. And now select HDD1 on the second display. Done.
Good. You'll notice that a lot of what is displayed on the HUD will be duplicated on the PFD. But let's start with the heads-up display first.
Alright.
There are a lot of things displayed at the same time, and it may get a little confusing, which is why the good people at Lockheed Martin provide us with 2 display modes, supplemented with 3 data layers and 2 decluttered levels.
This actually sounds as if they wanted to complicate things even more.
Yeah, quite the opposite. Let's begin with the display modes, basic and visual. Go ahead and enable Viz on the HUD panel.
It is enabled and removed the tapes, circles, scales, and ladders.
Exactly. It makes things more clear, but of course provides you with less data. Now disable nav data for me.
The navigation data block on the left, lateral deviation indicator, and some other info disappeared.
Even more clarity at the expense of data fed directly to your eyes. Another layer that can be disabled is tact, but it tactically gives you the current G level as well as a number of chaff and flares.
Okay. UNCG uncages the flight path marker?
Yep, exactly. And the one above marked OS is quite interesting. Go ahead and press it for me.
It looks like it is a momentary switch.
Yep, it is. Press and hold it. It'll show you the state of my HUD. If you look carefully, you'll see that it displays a different altitude than yours.
Yeah, because you didn't change the barometric pressure setting.
Yeah, very good, I did. Finally, the Cat 2, which is a very specific landing mode that we don't need to worry about here. Also, I won't be going through all that's displayed on the HUD because you should already know it, or you can look it up later.
Thank God, if you did, we would fly into Romanian airspace before you were done.
Yeah, you're right. And that's why before we move on, let's establish a nice left-hand orbit here using the autopilot wheel. I mentioned it earlier. Set up your HUD as you want and let me know when you're ready to move on.
Good to go.
This one's pretty easy. Make sure the Alt Hold and AT are enabled on the mode select panel and then turn the control wheel left and intercept a 15-degree turn.
Alright, turning now.
The bank angle scales at the bottom of your HUD. You'll want the indicator to stop in the middle between the first and second tick mark. Each represents 10 degrees of bank.
Okay, I'm there.
You'll notice that the nav mode has been disabled.
Yep.
Alright, let's move on to the PFD.
Okay.
Okay, so the PFD combines all of the most important flight instruments into a single display. You still should have the PFD menu open up on the EMU, so let's quickly cover the different options.
Alright.
The pilot and co-pilot menu selects whose display will be affected by any changes you make. Barrow selects if you want to have the altimeter displayed in millibars or in inches of mercury, which we commonly use in the U.S.
Okay.
Mag True Red determines which compass reference is used on the HSI and the compass readout on the HUD. Note that all the settings I'm talking about will only affect the pilot selected in line 1, and we can set up our PFDs in a completely different way.
Understood.
Now the FD, INU, CADC, and RADAL selects the source of information for the flight director. INU, which is responsible for pitch, flight path, and roll, the central air data computer, and the radar altimeter. Typically the pilot would use number 1 and the co-pilot would have the number 2 selected.
Okay, so all these systems are doubled?
Yes, for redundancy purposes. Switching the systems is part of emergency procedures, but this isn't relevant during today's flight. Or at least I hope not.
Certainly, otherwise I might have to select OSB number 2 if you catch my drift.
Yep. Okay, now look at the PFD itself. Let's quickly go through the basics.
Looking at it very intensively.
The colors on the display are used to, how should I say, differentiate between different sources of information. Green is for moving scale values and tick marks.
Yeah, that's cool and all, but I am colorblind, just saying.
White is for altitude deviations, acceleration cues, digital readouts. Cyan denotes a pilot's output reference set, so data which we can alter or introduce. Advisories and cautions are yellow, and critical warnings are red.
Makes perfect sense.
Okay, now for the cyan data. Most of it can be set using the reference set path. These will be going from the top left, selected indicated airspeed, selected altitude, minimum barometric altitude, the altimeter setting, minimum radar altitude, the one below AGL, and selected heading.
All right.
You can see the autopilot advisories in the green at the top. Now, one interesting thing I want to show you is the acceleration carrot. Go ahead and increase the desired speed to 260 knots using the knob.
Increasing speed.
A white caret next to the flight path marker on the ADI is just moved up. It shows if the aircraft is accelerating or decelerating.
Cool.
It is, isn't it? And I can already see the wheels turning in your head on how this is going to be useful. Now, bring the speed back down to 240 knots.
It went below the FPM.
Exactly. Alright, the last important thing here is the HSI, or Horizontal Situation Indicator. The HSI compass is always oriented to the aircraft heading, and the current heading is in the white box above it.
That is pretty standard.
Yep, you're right. The dots on both sides are part of the course deviation indicator. The short line called the CDI head-tail needle shows whether we're on course or not. If it's aligned with the course line, the longer white arrow, then everything is fine. If it's to the left or to the right, that means we're off course.
And we can use the dots to measure how far off we are?
Exactly. Now, depending on the nav source, these will either represent 1.5 nautical miles per dot if the distance to the waypoint is greater than 50 miles, or 600 yards per dot if we're within 50 miles. For VOR TACAN and ILS, these will give you degrees of deviation, but we'll talk about that when we land at Batumi.
All right, what's next?
Let's move on to the nav radar. Please enter the nav radar menu.
All right, moving back to main menu. And then nav radar. And now select HDD1 on the second display.
So the low-power color radar provides us with enhanced ground mapping and weather detection. It's also capable of detecting other aircraft in skin paint mode and can be used for precision position updates.
Nice. Sounds pretty useful.
It is, but say that fast. Precision position updates. Okay, so there are two places where you can adjust the settings on the AMU and on the radar control panel. Let's start with the latter. Feel free to check how things work in practice as I speak.
All right.
Next to the master switch, you have 6 buttons that allow you to choose between the 6 basic modes of the radar. Map and MGM, or monopulse ground map, are mutually exclusive, can't use them at the same time. Both paint a picture of the terrain ahead, but MGM works better at distances above 40 nautical miles, while map should be selected for scales below that.
Roger.
Weather is for weather. It should show you rain and turbulence at a range of up to 80 nautical miles, but I noticed that the weather here in the Caucasus is pretty static and the weather seems to be the same everywhere.
Now that you said something about it, I can't unsee how weird that is.
SP, or skin paint, detects and displays airborne targets up to a range of 20 nautical miles. It also shows whether they are moving towards or away from our aircraft.
Pretty neat.
We don't need to worry too much about the last two modes. WS stands for wind shear and BCN for beacon, which provides the capability to interrogate and display responses from ground and airborne beacons.
Okay.
Finally, the PRCN, the precision measurement mode. It's used to correct for certain map inaccuracies. Again, this should be covered in a dedicated training sortie, so let's leave it for now.
Sure. What about the controls below?
The knob below is called Intensity Target Select Switch. By turning it, you choose for which type of display you want to change the intensity level. Your choices are ARM for range and range rings, CUR for cursor, SYM for skin paint and beacon targets, and VID for weather and wind shear.
Roger. And I changed the intensity with the rocker switch next to it?
Exactly. Go ahead and play with it and let me know when we can move on.
Alright, let's go.
The rocker switch to the right is pretty important, as it changes the brightness of the radar return of the display. Press the increase button a few times with map mode on. The brighter the return, the higher the elevation of the terrain ahead.
Okay, makes sense. What about the function keys?
OFS switches between the offset and centered formats. FRZ causes the radar to complete the scan bar in progress, and then it stops all emissions and freezes the display. PEN switches between the pencil and fan beams, with the fan beam being the one that we use most of the time. Check all three before we move on to the sector select switch.
Okay. So, sector is responsible for the coverage of the scan?
Affirmative. It toggles between 15, 30, 60, and 135 degrees. Not all the settings are available for all the modes, but we don't need to dive too deep into the details here. Check out how it works and we'll move on. Oh, and don't worry about the PSEL switch for now.
Alright, what's next?
Let's have a look at the AMU options for the radar. The options here for the most part are self-explanatory. Center offset switches between the two types of display. Mag, true, grid changes the directional reference. Heading up, ground track up, north up, changes the orientation of the display. You know about the HDD position, no need to get into that.
All makes sense.
Now make sure you're still in MAP mode and click on range.
There are quite a few options from 1.5 miles up to 320.
Yes, the number of the brackets shows you the distance between each range ring on the display. To enable 320, you have to push the button next to it twice. Play with it, we'll move on.
Alright, ready to move on.
Alright, overlays. Enter the overlays submenu.
There.
Again, most of the items here are self-explanatory. Two things I do need to mention though. Tactical overlay adds threat identification and threat envelopes to the display. RWR adds a radar warning receiver, and it's important to note that the RWR set to on, you can't use the skin paint mode. Have a look at what does what.
Okay, I am ready for the next part.
Good. Now we'll talk about the radar display itself. The top left corner has nav information, bearing distance to the current waypoint, estimated time of arrival, time to go, target ground speed, and our current ground speed.
Target ground speed? Like for a moving target?
Negative. Now, target ground speed is the speed that we need to keep in order to arrive at the current waypoint at a specified time. There's going to be times when you have to be in a certain place at a specific time. That target ground speed will help you attain that.
Damn, I was hoping we would get to be dropping the MOAB on a moving target.
You really should be finding something else. Anyway, to the right you can see the XTK legend, which is a deviation from the selected ground track. The direction of the deviation is indicated in green by an R for right or L for left, followed by the distance in nautical miles.
Okay.
At the very bottom of the display from left to right, you have DBS or MGM for the current ground mode, followed by the selected range and fan or pin for the beam width. Next is the cursor information. We'll come back to that in a minute. Then altitude above ground level, and finally tachyon information.
Alright, and what is that weird arrow above the radar mode on the left?
That's the wind indicator. The arrow shows the wind direction in relation to our aircraft, and the number above it is the digital wind speed. If the indicator looks like a triangle, then the vertical side of the triangle represents the headwind or tailwind component, while the horizontal one is a crosswind. Does that make sense?
Yeah, pretty neat. I think the rest of the display is pretty standard. We can move on.
Cool. The last thing I wanted to quickly cover is the digital map display. The digital map is a very useful tool that helps with our situational awareness. You're going to find you're going to use it a lot.
Sure, it's always good to know exactly where you are.
Well, not exactly though. It may not show holding patterns or carp racetracks very accurately. For that, we should be using the nav radar as our main instrument. But yeah, it tells you where you are on a map, plus we can use it to create new waypoints, which we'll cover later.
Sounds good.
As we did before, let's have a look at the AMU, then the cursor control panel and the map itself.
Okay.
Return to the main menu and enter the Digimap on the AMU.
Alright. And there.
The map coverage option is very technical, so we'll skip it. The The white, yellow, etc. allow you to choose the symbology and overlay colors to make them stand out better against the background. Center offset, magnetic true grid, and heading north up are the same as for the nav radar. Go ahead and check out what does what.
Okay, this is all pretty standard.
Yeah, it is. So are the overlays, which only have 3 options here. Again, similar to the ones for the radar. Have a look at those now.
Yes, looks similar indeed.
To do anything with the digital map, you have to use the cursor control panel located on the center console. You'll also be using it for the nav radar display.
Alright.
The CNI MU tilt lever lock switch selects which HEDs will be used by the cursor control. 1 and 2 in the P position, and 3 and 4 when set to CP.
Okay.
The master display select switch will narrow this selection down. Use it to select the specific display the cursor control panel input will be sent to. You can also just turn it off.
Fine.
The range and zoom rocker switches will change the scale or the zoom. We'll come back to that in a minute.
Roger.
The HUD switch enables you to see the position of the cursor on the HUD if it's in the HUD field of view. Reset will position the cursor along the heading of the aircraft in a certain distance. It's useful if you wander off with the cursor too far from the on-ship symbol.
Got it.
Not going too fast for you, am I? No? Okay. Finally, the handle with 3 different controls. The left one is a tilt switch. The middle one's a cursor control, and the right one is the offset aim point free switch.
What do they do?
The middle one is used to move the cursor around the display. The others have specific functions which are outside the scope of today's sorting. But while I'm at it, you should know that there are 4 different cursor modes: manual, ground, computer, and quick. Though we'll stay in manual for today.
As usual, one simple question leads to a long answer and 5 more things to discover.
Yeah, welcome to the herd, man. Okay, let's focus on the display itself, shall we?
Focusing.
First, use the slew control to move the cursor around. You'll notice that it's always linked to the on-ship symbol with a solid line called a strobe. If you want to quickly move the cursor back, use the reset button.
Okay, very useful to check the area ahead of us or look at points of interest.
Yeah, it is, and for many other things as well. In the top left and top right, you have the nav data blocks. They're the same as for the nav radar. In the middle at the bottom, you can see the varying distance of the cursor from your position, as well as the lat long position of the point that it's currently over.
Yep.
The scales on the left side and above the legend at the bottom are in nautical miles, and will change whenever you alter the zoom. Press the zoom increase switch a couple times.
The scale changes, so does the zoom legend, and the map as well.
We have several different scales of the map available depending on what region you're in, but usually they go from 1 to 50,000 up to 1 to 5 million. Now, pro tip here. If you want to quickly return to the 1.0 zoom, press the range increase switch once.
Yep, it worked.
Alright, enough talking. I'm gonna sit over here and be quiet while you disable the autopilot and bring us back on our course. I'll let you do it all by yourself now. You've got control.
I have control.
Autopilot. 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 Check altitude. Check altitude.
Well, that was interesting.
Check altitude.
How's that for a training mission? Sorry, no intro this time. Yes, I know I gotta check the altitude. Give me a minute. We're going back to our course, which means we really gotta turn around. So that was an interesting nav basics. I didn't understand a whole lot of it. I just followed direction.
Check altitude.
Oh, shut up.
Check altitude. Check altitude. Check altitude. Check altitude. Check altitude.
Oops, just lowered the landing gear again. Alright, so I think we'll say goodbye here. I'm going to have to go back and record an intro because, you know. Nah. We'll just say goodbye and hope you enjoyed this little trip around the Herc. I like this. Even my controller didn't really die, it just timed out, which is really annoying. Hey, where are you going there, buddy? Alright, bye for now.